The city, Grad, is perhaps one of the most beautiful places on the Mediterranean. With its sturdy walls and church towers jutting into the sky, it remains etched on the map of man's existence like some mystical flower. This is Dubrovnik. In this city, a dialogue between beauty and love has been established, a harmonious relationship between man and nature, architecture, and Arcadian romanticism. Since 1873, seafarers have been led to the city by the lighthouse on Sveti Andrija. We head towards the lighthouse along a path running through preserved woodland. There is an old legend here that recollects a sad love story. It is a story of forbidden love that ended depths beneath these crags at Sveti Andrija in the blue. What remains of the story is linked with the depths around this place. It is a story of two groupers swimming together beneath the lighthouse. Legend has it that they are the souls of two unhappy lovers. Suddenly, we are surrounded by a group of greater amberjack. These are fish of the open seas adapted to swimming quickly over great distances. We're not sure whether they have been lured here through curiosity or because of the large school of damselfish. The crags here drop down to a depth of 80 meters. As we drop down into one of the most beautiful blue depths on the Adriatic, we experience a unique sense of tranquility. On our way down along the dark crag to the sandy bottom, we notice that nature has not given up on color. The pinkish bodies of a school of marine goldfish brighten up the dark depths. The crag is home to many different organisms. This is also an animal. It is a type of sea squirt. The sea sweeps food across the opening, which is in fact its mouth. As we head back to the surface, we pass by a nursery of organisms in the form of pink algae. The crags conceal yet another secret, a new generation of red coral, which is even more difficult to find in the undersea world. A large Hypsilodorus sea slug sits on the balcony of its home on a sandy shelf on the crag. Looking up, we see an unusual chordate, the clavellina. It sucks seawater full of nutrients in through this large opening. The closer we get to the surface, the stronger the sun illuminates the crag. In one of the crevices, we discover a haloclon sponge. Among sponges, it is the one with the most beautiful coloring. We are warily watched by a triple fin, which is well known for its need to protect its territory. Once again, we see greater amberjack swimming above us. Dubrovnik's islands, the Elafiti, are like jewels. There are 7 of them. The largest and farthest out to sea among the Elafiti Islands is Šipan. The settlement of Suđarađ is a place of stone houses and towers. Behind the walls and in the center of this town, we come across the gates to a tended park belonging to the Skočibuha villa. These steps lead up to the walls, to the belvedere, and a small chapel. On the ground floor by the stone pilo and auxiliary rooms, we come across the dining room and kitchen, where the traditional architecture has been preserved intact. In the shade of a palm tree, it almost seems as if we can see knights in shining armor measuring their strength for the honor of a lady. However, today, battle is only done by these tortoises. We sail off to visit the neighboring island, the island of Lopud. On Lopud, in the town of the same name, life centers around the palm-bedecked promenade. On an elevated and secluded plateau to the north is this Franciscan monastery, protected by its walls. The Shun Cove, with its quaint beach, lies on the southern, gentler side. The tunnel-like path through the woods brings us to the Church of Our Lady of Shun and an old cemetery. Konachep has preserved its ancient woodland that hangs over the crags, defying the open sea. The parkland and woodland at Gornje Cielo are among the most amazing on the Adriatic. In the shade of juniper trees, you will come across the remains of a pre-Romanesque church. Kolocep is also an island that is home to many endemic plant species: Umbellifera ragusa, broomrape blossoms covered in ants, germander in bloom, South Adriatic lemon reticulata, and a unique species of cabbage. Although a pleasurable sight, for some, they are a tasty morsel. Kolocep has been inhabited since ancient times. The island and its largest inhabited town, Gornje Cielo, was already part of the Dubrovnik Republic in the 11th century. Its influence can be felt and seen in the stonework, simply fashioned architecture that radiates beauty. Bezdan Point is closest to Dubrovnik. There is a lighthouse there. It is a warning light, but also a guiding light that will lead you back to the city. Bezdan Point is the place where the southern crag-covered coastline of the island settles and joins the northern, gentler and shallower coastline of the island. In the sea below the lighthouse, we discover this dramatic shift. The rocky shelf is suddenly sharply cut off like a column. Above us lie the mighty crags of Kolocep, crags that sometimes lose the battle against the southerly winds and waves. Today, this is an appealing diving spot, but also an attractive habitat for numerous species. The Silurides lattice lobster is the same size as the spiny lobster. It grabs on with strong pincers. The stones have formed numerous passages, openings, and small caves. This unusual formation is not a stone, but a living creature. The Microcosmos sulcatus is a sea squirt that lives off organic detritus and plankton, just like the bryozoans. This unusual formation consists of egg pods of the Fasciolaria lignaria sea slug. We enter a small sea lake and discover interesting life on the bottom. Among smaller species of fish, the blenny has the most dangerous bite. And it is always accompanied by the odd goby or two. We surface in a small lake that is joined to the open sea by two undersea passages. As we head back to the surface, we exit through the smaller of the two. Close to the ancient city is Lapad, where the local gentry and wealthy citizens of Dubrovnik built their summer villas. The villas bear witness to the harmony and marriage between nature and human art. We pass under the new bridge and enter Rijeka Dubrovačka. Yet another godsend and natural beauty of the city of Dubrovnik. This is a freshwater oasis where even these swans have found a bit of peace and quiet. The people of Dubrovnik brought drinking water to their villas from the source of the river Ombla. One of the largest and most spectacular villas is that of the Dubrovnik nobleman Petar Sorkočević. What you can see here is something that was especially prized by the people of Dubrovnik, a garden that is significantly larger than the actual villa. The garden architecture at the Gučetić villa at distant Tristan is simply breathtaking. It is a cool and shady resting place beneath the crowns of innumerable trees, and is embellished by an impressive Neptune fountain. The sound of constantly gurgling water, the rich and diverse plant and animal life interspersed by sculptures are the peak of its striving for Renaissance beauty. Standing on the tranquil belvedere, we look down on the jetty, the sea, the tragic islet of Daxa, and the dangerous Grebeni. The depths at this place are evident proof of the eccentricity both of the sea and the people there. We dive into the blue depths in front of Grebeni, which is about half a mile west of Dubrovnik. We attach ourselves to a security rope which will lead us to our goal, but allow us to decompress while surfacing. Out of the darkness, we see the bow of a sunken ship. Moving from the bow, we head towards the stern of the Totono, an Italian merchant vessel that lies at a depth of 50 meters. When it sank, the bow struck an undersea crag, and so a third of the ship was simply broken off. Like all metal objects in these circumstances, the Totono is now covered in a variety of sponges, bryozoans, and sea anemones. Next to the ship there is a tractor, and around it we see schools of mullet and swallowtail sea perch. The tractor on the sandy bottom seems to be waiting for its driver to arrive and start plowing up the seabed. The Totono was built in 1899 in Rotterdam, and its fate was sealed when it was mobilized by the Italian Navy during World War II. It ran into a submerged mine at Grebeni while transporting war equipment to Dubrovnik and sank on the 15th of February 1943. Now, it is a 62-meter-long artificial reef. Forkbeards hide out in the cargo hold. These fish and other inhabitants of the deep continue to keep this ship alive. You can also swim under the ship where the bow hit the crag. The rope that links us to the surface makes it easier for us to return to the bright light of day. The city of Dubrovnik is a cornucopia full of wonders, possibilities, and beauties. In a quandary among all these luring options, we finally opt to visit the islet of Lokrum. We start by visiting the ancient remains of the Benedictine monastery. Then head through the park designed by Maximilian of Habsburg, and down the walls and paths among the circular flower beds where wondrous flowering cacti grow. There are olive groves here too. Cypresses provide shade on the imperial path leading up to the fortress dating back to Napoleonic times. The southernmost end of the path leads to the Dead Sea, a lake full of seawater. The booming of the waves beating upon the crags that enclose the Dead Sea is eerie. According to legend, this is the place where evil found its resting place. We decide to enter the Dead Sea through an undersea passage. All around us, large blocks of rock that have crumbled off the crags through the ages protect the water and the tranquility of the Dead Sea. We surface through its emerald waters. We dive again, on our way to discover a specific group of animals. Lokrum has one of the largest cacti gardens, while its undersea world boasts numerous classes of a phylum of animal that protects themselves by spines, the Echinodermata. Sea urchins are the most common representatives of this class. The purple sea urchin is armed with spines with white tips and is one of the most common and largest. On the crag we notice an Echinus acutus sea urchin. It has different feeding habits as it mostly feeds off other dead animals. Not all sea urchins have spines. The Sidaris sidaris sea urchin has much smaller and thicker spines. In comparison, the spines of Stylosidaris are much longer. The Echinocardium cordatum, or sea potato, is a complete contrast to the rest. Its defense mechanism is to dig in, as it does not have such dangerous spines. Its short arboreal spines look more like tiny spatulas. It looks so harmless that even this crab has decided to attack. If it does not manage to dig in, then all that will be left is a white shell. Next, we encounter the most frequent type of sea urchin in the Adriatic, the common sea urchin. It has numerous flexible tube-like feet, or pedicellaria, among its spines. Their purpose is to cling on to and attach themselves to a surface. Starfish also have pedicellariae. Although this may sound absurd, they too belong to the Echinodermata phylum. Many of them have spines that are far more evident, however, their main advantage is their arms. They use them to move around, explore the seabed, and catch all those who are slower than they are, in other words, sea urchins and shellfish. When a starfish puts out an arm and locates a sea urchin or other prey, it covers its prey with its body, everts its stomach, and literally swallows its prey whole. This elegant long red arm belongs to a Hacelia starfish. And this is a cushion starfish. It has the shortest arms among them. Brittle stars are the fastest among the Echinodermata. There are two types, the common brittle star and the serpent star. The most unusual representatives of the Echinodermata are sea cucumbers. They too have spines, but they are inconspicuous in comparison to those of the sea urchin and the spiny starfish. Sea cucumbers feed by sweeping up matter from the surface of the sand. After they have filtered all the nutrients, they expel the remains, leaving a trail of sausage-shaped excrement. Both the sea cucumber and its relative, the Holothuria sea cucumber, have an interesting defense mechanism. They eject sticky white threads from the hind end and sometimes even their stomachs. Sea cucumbers do not leave the bottom unless they have a very good reason for doing so, for example, mating. When mating, they eject their seed into the sea current and stand up so that almost 2/3 of their bodies are vertical. Fertilization and the growth of offspring are left to the mercy of the sea. Of all the myriad beauties in which Dubrovnik abounds, let us just say something about the watery gifts of Grad Dubrovnik. The water that has flowed at the great Anforio fountain since 1438 was brought from the distant source of Šumet. The decorative art vanished during the Great Earthquake, but 16 reliefs of masks still remain. A view to the picturesque facades of the Church of St. Spas and the Franciscan Monastery make this square a wondrously cool and refreshing place in the summer months. The cloister of the monastery is an oasis of spiritual quietude and a harmonious balance of lush vegetation and architecture. On the eastern side of the city, by the Vrata od Ploča, there is another quaint fountain, the small Onofrio fountain. It is a true masterpiece, both functional and decorative. Next to it is the Ducal Palace, the center of power in the Republic of Dubrovnik. The cathedral is a Baroque beauty with numerous statues. And this is the Church of St. Blaise, the patron saint of this city. The main city artery, Stradun, was once a sea channel. As the sun goes down behind the Elafiti Islands, a new side, the night of Dubrovnik, emerges. It is lit up to show off its beauty and the festival that starts once the sun has set and the heat has let off. Leaving the crowded thoroughfare of Stradun, we are off to see some other festive games that are not held within Dubrovnik's fortress walls. Allow us to take you to an unusual theater. And while night is a time of rest for some, others are bystanders in the theater of life. Drzic's characters appear out of the dark depths. Why not let this John Dory play Držić himself? This is the novella od stanza, enacted by fish, crabs, shrimps, and other sea characters. Vlaho a Gunard, Miho a strong Dentex, and Živo Pešica, played by an octopus in this play, meet during carnival night. They boast to each other how they manage to escape their parents every evening to run off and have fun. They have heard that a stranger has arrived in the city. A stranger going by the name of Stanac and played by our moray eel over here, who is unsuccessfully searching for a place to stay the night. The resourceful Živo constantly switches innumerable outfits in order to deceive and jest with Stanac. However, Stanac is not to be jested with because the rules of the Undersea world are far too strict. Nighttime is not a time for comedy, and the aquatic Držić knows how to twist things into a tragedy, which is why it is best for Vlaho the Gunard to flee. Day is about to dawn, and the nocturnal theater performance draws to an end. In the early morning light, with the end of the fiesta, the triplefin will sing out and wake the nobility of Dubrovnik. The peacock wrasses, ornate wrasses, and rainbow wrasses will awake and cavort in their impressive colorful outfits to proudly present the beauty and splendor of the undersea world of the city of Dubrovnik. The play of light and shadow on the island of Korčula extends from the oldest settlement on the farthest point in the east, Lombarda, to the youngest settlement, Vela Luka, in the western part of the island. Vela Luka is situated in a deep and protected bay below the hilltop Hum. Over the centuries, modern Korčula has grown at a meeting place that was once a cross between villages with assiduously cultivated fields and shiny cities with artistically fashioned marble palaces and churches. The Greek name for this island, Korkyra Melaina, alludes to the nymph Korkyra and leads us into the 10 or so dark mythical caves on Korčula. Vela Špilja in the Vela Luka Bay surfaces out of the darkness of the past. In the Great Hall, the layers of earth and ash bear witness to traces of life. 20,000 years of human life are recorded in these remains, which include toys, weapons, and tools. At this point in the distant past, Korčula was a range of hills above the river Neretva. The inhabitants of this cave lived, died, and were buried here. As the ice melted, the sea gradually rose and flooded the caves. In one of these caves, the love-struck god of the sea, Poseidon, loved the nymph Korkira. We dive into the undersea world, into the darkness of the cave Ključ. There is little life here. The entrance to the cave is at a depth of 30 meters. The bottom is covered in fragments of stone, probably caused by the crumbling of the cave's walls and ceilings. We're surprised by the size of the cave and its gallery. The large pocket of air here is surrounded by walls that are pink in hue. These dark threads hanging from the ceilings are the roots of some plants growing above sea level. The dark and the lack of sea currents make these stone chambers unattractive for habitation. We return to the light through this large blue exit, the only safe visual pointer in the cave. We leave here, bestowing this dwelling to Poseidon and the quietude of the deep. The gleaming city of Korčula grows and flourishes where land meets the sea. There is order here and beauty. Adapted to the configuration of the land, the urban plan is in the shape of a fishbone, with streets running off the main thoroughfare. The heart of this place is St. Mark's Cathedral. It is embellished with stone rosettes, lions above its entrance, and a bell tower that shows the moon's phases. The interior of this church is a place for prayer, worship, and thanksgiving. Across the way from the cathedral is a beautiful secular edifice, the Arneri Palace, adorned by stone treasures which are safeguarded in its courtyard. The monumental Kopena Vrata, the land gate, and the Church of St. Michael affords a view of the interior of the city. There are three walls, trepoci as the people of Korčula call them, above the main promenade. There is a symbolic meaning to climbing up the 101 steps that lead to the Church of St. Anthony, a mixture of flashing sunlight on stone and shady darkness, very much like human life itself. Surrounded by the all-pervading scent of oranges, lemons, and the symbol of the Mediterranean, the agave, we enter the Church of All Halos that has a wonderful vaulted ceiling, a unique Pieta, and Christ the Victor. This was what Korčula was like even when Marco Polo started out on his journey to the east. He traveled in caravans, but also by sea. One can only wonder what the undersea world was like in the 13th century, and so we set off to discover some of the ancient inhabitants of the deep. We see a Mediterranean feather star free-falling. This is not as dangerous as it may seem if you are in the sea. We decide to follow suit and freefall into the Orlandusha Canyon. This velvety sea hare is also tired of its clumsy attempts at swimming and is returning to the bottom. Movement is of vital importance for many, but this is only the beginning of the story. The free-falling sea hare has frightened a Noah's Ark shellfish. It clams up, and that is about all the movement we will get to see from it. Even minimal movements might be a lifesaver. Even the unusual movements of the terebelida, a transparent tube worm, it literally retracts into itself. Although it is difficult to believe, the sea anemone is very skillful at moving its tentacles. If you do not have any extremities, then you are destined to crawl. It might seem as if you are moving at a snail's pace, but the snail's or slug's prey, the shellfish, is no faster. Not unless, of course, you happen to be a pecten shellfish. The flatworm's wavy movements give it the air of a dancer. It observes its environment by nodding its head. The silky fabric of the cuttlefish's lateral fins flutter in the same manner. A very small step separates crawling from swimming. A number of fish, on the other hand, seem to enjoy jumping more. Gobies, lizardfish, and weavers spring out of their hiding places after their prey. The jump is longer if fins are engaged. This is the technique that the sole employs when its attempts at camouflage have failed and it needs to flee. 2 extremities at least are needed for walking. The octopus has 4 times as many, and the starfish 100 times as many. Fish should, by definition, be swimmers. The gunnard, however, prepares to walk as it explores the bottom in search of prey. Its gait is almost more elegant than its swimming technique. The direction in which you are looking is also the direction in which you are heading, unless you happen to be a crab, in which case you move sideways because it's much quicker. The flippers on our feet mean that we are at an advantage as we propel ourselves over to an octopus on the bottom. It prepares to engage hydrojet propulsion and expels seawater through its siphon, thereby achieving enviable speeds. The only drawback is that it swims backwards. The spiny lobster with its long paddle-shaped tail that serves to propel it through the water has the same problem. For a moment, it is faster than the octopus, which is no wonder, as it is the octopus's favorite meal. The spiny lobster's speed is often not enough for a safe escape. In that case, hiding is the next best strategy, which it does by squeezing itself backwards. We cannot squeeze into this narrow bolt hole, so we move on. Our artificial light illuminates a forkbeard. It is very skillful at finding holes, which it researches with its long stick-like ventral fins. Using fins is the easiest way to swim. These black umbers know this, and they wave their tails in acknowledgement. But how does this John Dory manage then? It looks as if it's not moving any of its fins. Let us take a closer look. The small transparent dorsal fin is its only means of propulsion. Humans only manage this with the help of technology. Some use their entire body to swim. The moray is very adept at this and does it by snaking its body and, of course, by using its tail as an additional aid. It's rather like diving with a monofin. The tail should be the main means of propulsion, but this is not always the case. This wrasse from tropical waters is quite a proficient swimmer, although it uses its ventral fins. Ventral fins are usually an aid to swimming or are used for hovering in one spot, which becomes clear after observing these gapers. Here comes an airplane among fish, the gunnard as head pilot with its tail pulsing and wings extended. It simply cannot be compared to other fish. A sea bream disappears in the twinkling of an eye. And what about this squid? It is impossible to predict its speed and direction. We decide to replace the undersea vistas with those on land and gaze upon a scene filled with a view to the stone walls and narrow streets of Korčula. They are covered in a patina of historic events and attractive plants and flowers. Bougainvillea, rubber plants, geraniums, hydrangea, and other beautiful wildflowers and plants of the Mediterranean. The merging of light and shadow exudes a specific scent within the gardens. There was always a lack of potable water on the island of Korčula, but it was always shared with the plants which were used for decorative purposes, for food, as spices, and for medicinal remedies. For the people of Korčula, exhausted by vela težačkoga dela, the shade provided by these trees was for resting after a hard day's work. The brilliant whiteness of Korčula's stone walls fades, and shadows creep into the loggia. And we are off for a dive at the old harbor and mooring place once used by many vessels. Today, boats and ships moor and anchor in the new harbor. This means that soft coral can grow on the sandy bottom here in peace. This long-spined sea urchin need fear no more either. The fallen anchors lie in eternal peace. They have become the habitat and lively colored living quarters of the sea urchin. Few people know that these anchors are, in fact, the anchors of ships that were quarantined here in front of the city of Korčula. The rosy and golden hues of the plant-covered anchors blend in with the colors of the other inhabitants of this undersea world. Under a rock that has sealed the destiny for these anchors, we come across a Galathea squamifera lobster, but also another unusual organism, the Bonellia viridis. This unusual worm, like the sea cucumber, is a cleaner of the seabed. Although much bigger, the moray poses no threat to this worm. Above the moray, we see more hunters. The secretive scorpionfish and Microcosmus sulcata sea squirt that feeds on plankton. As we continue on our way along the crag towards the shallows, a Mediterranean feather star bids us farewell. These spiny lobsters always seem to be in the company of at least one curious gaper. It seems to have avoided paying dearly for its gaping curiosity, as there is a fishing hook hanging out of its mouth. In order to ensure safe passage, the blenny waits for the starfish to lift up its arm like a traffic warden, which it does, but very slowly. We can only wonder at the extreme caution it is exercising. Just below the waves, a hermit crab has found a new home to suit its taste. It hoists up its new home and heads off into the fields of Poseidonia, while we head off to other fields. Those cultivated by man. The town of Lumbarda overlooks its vineyards from an elevated height. Life is stirring in the vines, while the southerly winds send waves rolling across the sands at Pergina Beach. The whiteness of the stone blocks on the church of St. Rocco and the tolling of the bell in its bell tower no longer mingle together with the calling voices from the abandoned stone quarry on the island of Vernica. Nesting seagulls are now the island's only inhabitants. We make our way to the headland at Rajnic and to the lighthouse at the easternmost point on the island of Korčula. A unique archipelago on the island of Badia lie between the island of Korčula and the Pelješac Peninsula. On Badia there is a large Franciscan monastery with a jetty and a dry dock for boats. The cloister and cistern are at the center of the complex of monastery buildings. The stone used for its construction came from the small neighboring island of Vernica. This is an ancient stone quarry, Gava. There used to be 29 such places. Today it is a romantic little hamlet with enchanting white houses overgrown in lush green plant life that offers deep shade on a hot day. Juraj Dalmatinac once walked to the quarry along this path. He chose stone from this quarry for the construction of Šibenik Cathedral. Today, there are fewer and fewer people who want this difficult job. On cutting open the stone with strong rhythmic strokes, the whiteness of the marble is revealed, which will then be transformed into a church, a palace, a work of art, or a monument. The heavy hammer strokes on stone can be heard all the way into the blue depths. Nature, an innate stonesman, reveals its unsurpassable adeptness at stone carving. On the seabed below the surface at the Rajnic headland, the elephant ear sponge has grown so large that it has outgrown the strength of its own body, which is slowly crumbling. We are not the only fascinated bystanders. This cuttlefish also seems to be drunk on all the beauty and hovers around taking in the sights. Black sea bream gather at the Rajnic headland in the early spring. This is when they mate and spawn. The solitary fish hide their eggs in holes and crevices. Dressed up to the nines, they search out a good location in the shade of the soft corals. This overgrown crag is also an ideal place for other species. The unusual orange sponge is an Axinella sponge. The versatility of life here attracts unusual hunters from the open sea. Pelagia noctiluca jellyfish, and even certain non-swimmers, like the Elysios sea anemone, the most poisonous among the Mediterranean sea anemones. This octopus hiding in a crevice may end up as the moray's next snack. Do you think you could pick out a scorpion fish in this milling colorful crowd? The scorpion fish swims off into the deep, and we head up to the surface. At the end of a sunny day, we look forward to Korčula's ancient traditional dance, the Moreška. The Moreška is an event from the past and a pledge to the future. Today, it is a dance. Yesterday, it was a battle. Today, it is a multitude of colors, costumes, fun and games, joy and youth. Once, it was a life and death struggle. This is the enactment of the story of the papal statement, the Bull of Korčula, in defense of honor, pride, beauty, and love. Today, this dance is performed twice a week during the summer months.
Poštenja I bez časti, ne uzdaj se u desnicu. Ponizit se s moje visine, učinio bi da od tebe ne nađe se već spomena. Nije sržbe o potrebe, Osmanine slušaj.
The fun, singing, and dancing will go on until dawn. The dancing also continues in the undersea world at Lombarda. In the dark of the night, the sandy bottom is full of furrows. The strength of the southerly winds can be felt in the deep as well, and the leaves of Poseidonia sway as if in corroboration. This small Sagartia sea anemone also sways to the motions of the Poseidonia leaf. On the sandy seabed, these extended tentacles belong to golden opalate sea anemones, which are endemic to the Mediterranean. This unusual-looking seahorse slowly drifts towards the bottom. The male steadily feeds on plankton, He has to keep his strength up, as he has a separate pouch below the abdomen where he looks after the eggs. Other young fish are food for larger hunters. Some, like the mullet, dig around on a seabed. Others, like the octopus, use their arms to feel around for small crabs and shrimp. Snails and sea slugs also look for food in the sand. The much smaller Natica millipunctata is an excellent hunter. The Hypsilodorus is completely covered in sand. Next, we come across a stalking lizardfish. Its teeth are fearsome. This is something that this conger knows only too well, and decides not to risk exposing itself to danger. The beady green stalking eye of a weaver looks out from where it's lying in ambush. It is out to ambush these small smelt. One of them simply comes too close. This small goby is waiting for its meal to come swimming up to its mouth. The goby is very picky and choosy, and spits out inedible morsels. The game of life will continue until sunrise and the early hours of the morning. But until then, thousands of fish will shimmer and glisten on the sandy bottom in the waters around Korčula, like submerged fireflies. Hang gliders sail down from the soaring rock face of Biokova Mountain. From the air, Hvar resembles a long-tailed reptile. Cape Sučuraj to the east lays closest to the shoreline and to the town of Dubrovnik, and then the almost deserted northern shoreline of Hvar with its forests and maki, which extends as far as the quaint cove nestling the town of Jelsa, Verboska, and the Stari Grad Bay. Those wishing to reach the ancient town of Hvar must avoid the island's western shoreline. Hvar lies protected from the ice-cold winds to the north by the Pakleni Islands, and the largest among them, the island of St. Clement, so that the climate on Hvar is one of the most pleasant found among the entire Adriatic coast. At 626 meters, St. Nicholas is the highest peak on the island. Beneath it, the Velo Valley, bathed in sun as is the rest of the island 2,718 hours a year. This is Hvar, with its aromatic fields of lavender and rosemary, its olive and fig groves, which have survived for centuries, cultivated by diligent hands. Point Cabal guards the northern doorway to the Stari Grad Bay. A true underwater tunnel awaits us in the waters beneath the lighthouse. A small opening at a depth of 7 meters leads us to a cave, which at first glance seems void of any life. We dive into the depths through a narrow tunnel. However, at the first opening we encounter the lemon-yellow Leptopsami pruvoti, the sunset cup coral. The cave comes to life as we pass into more spacious areas. Sponges, anemones, and in the crevices, the rare Venus shell. There are also numerous openings through which we are unable to pass, but minute organisms and various larvae are able to, and will soon line the cave walls. And all of this thanks to the constant influx of seawater through the opening on the other side located at a depth of 17 meters. It is an attractive spot for the Hasilia attenuata starfish. It uses its arms to find a shellfish. The ancient town of Faros, today's Stari Grad, lies in the bay sheltered by the Kabel Peninsula. Houses of stone and narrow cobbled streets, squares and green shutters, a freeze frame of beauty. Tvrdalje, the famous fortified mansion built by the Croatian poet and nobleman Petar Hektorović. The fortification is rich in beautiful ornamented windows and gardens, and a unique fish pond enclosed by a vaulted and arcaded terrace. Today, the pond is home to grey mullet. The mansion once witnessed the creation of music, literature, and the first Croatian pastoral poem, Fishing and Fisherman's Talk. Greek and Roman legacy is visible even today in Cyclops Street. It's also probable that Petar Hektorović strolled by the Dominican monastery and St. Stephen's Church. The poet also climbed to the lookout, where he was offered a panoramic view of Stari Grad to one side and the old Greek common lands to the other. Fishing boats sail out in a moonless night, and we follow them. Our lights reveal a live stage. The colorful actors appear in the limelight, first a seahorse adorned in yellow, and then a golden blue John Dory. Illuminated by our strong lights, the sea world at night comes to life, both lustrous and colorful. Their prismatic features are lost once outside of the sea. Here, even the Salp's modest costume seems festive. Covered in dots of silver, pink, and blue, the Dentex is the most colorful of them all. Even the other fish seem almost as glamorous. During mating season, the Mediterranean wrasse simply radiates with beauty. The crimson hues of the swallowtail sea perch are unique in this underwater world. And the other creatures of the sea are equally flamboyant. The Galathea strigosa has blue stripes. The most beautiful is the Natophilium elegans shrimp. The most difficult to catch on camera are fish with sleek, silvery bodies. The others pose for us, their silver scales resplendent. Blue spots are visible on all of the fish, even on the red sea bream. Only a live sea scorpion has blue markings like this. The most dazzling are the young metal blue damselfish. The light attracts squid. Swift, iridescent, colorful. It's almost impossible to film them. The vineyards of Sveta Nedi lie beneath the highest peak of St. Nicholas. From here, a narrow tunnel leads to the small picturesque village of Pitve. Well hidden like all old villages, it offered the islanders a refuge from pirates and conquerors and a livelihood by working the fields. Jelsa is a town and a seaport. In ancient times it was known as the Portus de Petue, the port of Pitve. Today it is a village with a central square encircled by Renaissance and Baroque housing, and St. John's Church. The parish church is dedicated to St. Mary. It's a village of fishermen and seafarers. Not far from Jelsa, on the shores of a deep inset inlet, lies Vrboska, perhaps one of the most picturesque fishing villages on the Adriatic. It is a modest replica of Venice, with houses enclosing the narrow, meandering inlet. The fort church is also unique. We dive along a steep crag bearing a funny name, Smochiguza, wet bottom. We first encounter a hermit crab. What interests us is the cohabitation among species. The hermit crab and the anemone are an example of a balanced coexistence. This school of damselfish are an example of synchronized swimming among members of the same species. It developed as a means of defense against stronger adversaries. In their struggle for survival, members of the same species will first size each other up. They'll rarely become each other's fare. Winning is more important. Crabs are often pugnacious. The common shore crab is intrepid. It's ready to fight a diver far bigger than himself. In the interesting battle between the common crab and the sea scorpion, the latter gets the short end of the stick. Its jaw has been dislocated. We doubt it will make the same mistake twice. The hard shell of the spider crab offers excellent protection from sea urchin spines. Not all relationships are antagonistic. On the sandy bottom, the cram sponge has found a good mooring, a pen shell. Neither the pen shell nor the smaller shellfish like the nutshell in Noah's Ark seem to mind the cram's presence. It comes in handy as camouflage should a starfish be nearby. This turban shell carries an entire zoo on its back. On the branches of the sea fan, we will find other species. The pearl oyster attaches itself to the gorgonia by using its cilia. It doesn't damage the gorgonia and is very beneficial to the oyster. In the Poseidonian microcosm, we find the Thecocalus anemone. There are also large ones, like the Elysia mirabilis, but here it is to the disadvantage of the host, the Poseidonia. Many enjoy the protection of the sea anemone. A small crab hiding behind one is more often a standard than an exception. On the open sea, few would dare attack the jellyfish. We also avoid it. The small horse mackerel are its companions. The jellyfish offers them constant protection and the odd morsel of food from its menu. Proximity among the various species can result in interesting evolution, to the extent that it influences appearances. The triplefin will turn as green as the Poseidonia. The pipefish has taken it to the extreme. It resembles a blade of grass, and even swims in the rhythm with the swaying Poseidonia. Yet another form of symbiosis among the species, which is even more extreme. The Discodoris atromaculata is so used to the Petrosia sponge that it is its only sustenance. Much like the Flabellina sea slug, which only eats the eudendrium. it will also lay its eggs on it. However, this is an affiliation that will prove to be detrimental to the latter. Species that reap such benefits are often called parasites. In a frenzy, the sea louse looks for a new host. The sea scorpion, lizardfish, and red sea bream are taken. They have their own parasites. They live off their host and can cause significant damage, even kill their host. Overall, it's not easy swimming around if you have a squatter on your head. Numerous organisms live in symbiosis on the pen shell, but there is one exception. This one lives in it. This example of mutualism is difficult to film. A crab in a pen shell. In exchange for board and breakfast, the crab will use its refined senses to warn the shell when to clam up. Symbiosis is the most harmonious form of living arrangement among various species. It's a relationship that has evolved to such an extent that the extinction of one species would also cause the other to become extinct. The hermit crab and sea anemone cannot exist without each other. The hermit crab needs protection, and the anemone movement in order to get more nutrients. The Cribronopsis crassa will not attempt to catch or string the Periclymenes shrimp. The shrimp is a cleaner, and as such plays a crucial role in the undersea world. In conclusion, the sea is not made up of individual species that augment it with their vivid color and forms. Symbiosis and codependent relationships among the species are far more important. Many years have passed since the ancient Greek colony of Deimos vanished under the foundations of modern-day Hvar. Hvar is a town rich in artistic reminiscences. Our camera will document only a select few. The castle, or kastel, on the hill above the town walls, the town's west gate, commissioned by the poet Maren Gazarovic, the town square, with St. Stephen's Cathedral and its trefoil facade and famous bell tower, the municipal well, built in 1529, is no longer in use. The romantic remains of the Gothic mansion of the poet Petar Hektorovic located at the town's southern fortification. The stately mansions of the Grguric or Lucic family, where poet Hannibal Lucic wrote the first Croatian. We dive down following the columns of Poseidon's temple, covered in his subjects that hide among the narrow crevices. A gilthead seeks refuge under the sea fan and stays close to the crag. Hvar too has its own underwater temple of splendor, carved by the trident of Poseidon himself. Amid the thick walls of the temple, small openings only for the chosen few. We're looking for Palinurus, Aeneana's helmsman, a spiny lobster that takes its name after this legendary seaman. We follow a school of two-banded sea bream, damselfish, and the Antodon mediterrana towards yet another mythical underwater shrine. The Gorshka Cave. Anemones cover the sandy seabed. Their poisonous tentacles resemble the hair of Medusa in Greek mythology. Fortunately, no one has been turned into stone by looking at them. We enter a bare, vertical tunnel. We return to the columns of Poseidon, colossal giants whose tips barely touch the surface of the water. From the main square in Hvar, we walk up steps leading to the fortress, the Fortica, which offers a panoramic view of the Paklini Isles and the island of Vis. Its thick walls offer peace and safeguard a collection of historical artifacts found on land and under the sea. A visit to the small dungeon cells fires our imagination, reminding us of times long past. We travel to Brusje. Far away from the sea, the people continue to live here as they did long ago. From the fruits of the earth, grapes, olives, and lavender. Under the ruins of the monastery, we find a well still in use and a beekeeper. Croatian honey is one of the best in the world. The Napoleon Fortress stands higher than the Fortica. At 241 meters, it offers a magnificent view of the island's western shoreline. We dive down to the sunken stone obelisk, which the locals call Campanile, the bell tower. It's an appropriate name. Its silent blue timber attracts schools of fish. Forkbeards have made their home in its belfry. In this underwater world, every day is a holiday, and the campanella has been adorned like this for thousands of years. Under the watchful eye of the scorpion fish, the divers and fish make a pilgrimage to the campanella. The spiny lobster chases a hermit crab, demonstrating its supremacy. It needs the crevice more than the crab. Almost at the top of the campanella, red horny coral blossom. These beauties vary in color, from purple and blue to pink. They line the tunnel leading from the campanella to the exit. Created over thousands of years in the waters of Croatia and illuminated by our torches, this coral will remain an unforgettable memory. Our sea journey to the island of Sveti Andrija, or Svetac as it is also called, is almost like traveling into the past, and the vessel we are on also seems like a remnant of the past. Sveti Andrija, St. Andrews, is an island on the open sea off the coast of Croatia and lies 13 nautical miles west of Komiža. Through the ages, its shores have withstood all human attempts to inhabit the island permanently. Today, members of the Znaki family are the only heirs and wardens of this island. Sveti Andrija has no gentle shores, bays, protected little harbors, or breakwaters. It lies in the middle of a volcanic triangle enclosed by Komiža, Jabuka, and Palagruža. The rocks that were once molten lava continue to rule the sea and the people. Diving into the undersea world around Svetac is like entering a seemingly endless blue and translucent world. It is almost as if the sun's rays penetrate down to greater depths here. Diving in the waters and undersea world around Svetac means enjoying its inimitable colors without the aid of artificial lighting. We swim aimlessly around the undersea crags, and here and there we flood the odd lichen and bryozoans with our lights. Soon, I become a member of a school of damselfish, gently drifting down to the fronds of soft coral at the bottom. Sea feather anemones quiver. A rainbow wrasse slowly swims by. We seem to have startled a male cuckoo wrasse. An octopus hides under a stone. A gilt-head bream has wedged itself into this crevice. It even allows us to reach out and touch it. It seems that modern man has not yet managed to endanger the undersea harmony here. The undersea world of Svetac stretches down to a depth of 80 meters, where the currents are considerably stronger. The small and ostensibly abandoned island of Svetiandria has a rich past full of mystery. Legends and names bear witness to this fact. We look at the top of the Kraljičino, or as locals call it, Krajicino, above the Šiabod Point. Legend has it that this fort was visited by the strong and fierce Illyrian queen, Queen Teuta. However, modern archaeology dates the walls back to the late antique to around the 6th century. This was a good spot for monitoring sea routes around Vis. Later, in the 12th century, the Benedictines arrived. They came to live here and brought with them a rule of life, pray and work. They built themselves a monastery, but only the walls and fountains remain. Only the cylindrically vaulted cistern has been preserved intact. Even today, water from the cistern helps to quench a donkey's thirst. Woods are another of Svetac's treasures. Traditional boat builders have always come here for the highest quality wood for their boats. All these people were just temporary and sporadic visitors until a couple of centuries ago, the Felanda and Zanki families decided to stay. And so it was that the Zanki family left the Zarushka Bay and set out on a journey to this distant island. In the historic cave near the first house built on the island, there is an 80-year-old baker's oven. The chapel of St. Andrew, who was an apostle and fisherman, was built in Povlabok Bay. Inside, the painting of the Virgin Mary bears testimony to all the fulfilled prayers and thanksgivings of the islanders, whose destinies are conjoined with the sea. When the south winds blow, the sea is cruel and whips up towering waves that come crashing down towards Svetac from Brusnik. This is how numerous stories about Svetac came into existence. Some are probably true, but since they have not been researched, they are retold as legends. One of them tells of a true labyrinth of undersea caves on Svetac. Eyewitnesses will tell you that no other island has as many submerged caves and passages. Only the Mediterranean monk seal, the true inhabitant and mistress of this submerged underworld, could find her way around in them. Many of these caves are not completely submerged. Their ceilings, as is the case in the Crna Ploča cave, are above sea level. Inside we discover why it was so dearly loved by the Morski Covik, as the Mediterranean monk seal is nicknamed locally. There is a large airy space with an adjoining beach under the reddish vault of the cave. We head back, using the same route used by the Mediterranean monk seal as it left this cave and swam into extinction 50 years ago. When you dive without artificial light, then you really have to rely on the sun. This is not quite as simple as it sounds, as the sea absorbs the sun's rays. Composed of a variety of wavelengths, which we see as colors, the first color to lose the battle and vanish is red. So after a couple of meters, we end up perceiving this red starfish as being brown. The Retapora biania, which is greenish in the sun's rays, shows its true colors when flooded by our lights. As we drop into the depths, even more colors vanish. Red is followed by orange, then yellow, followed by green, and finally blue. The undersea world of Svetac is one of those rare oases that can be filmed in natural light. Without artificial light, it looks even more beautiful and more mysterious. Svetac is an island on the open sea surrounded by great depths with waters that are, above all, clean and crystal clear. There is a multitude of algae in the shallows. The sun is strong enough for them to be green and full of chlorophyll. These unusual transparent bushes around which damselfish swim are in fact a colony of animals, the Eudendrium hyroid. Sea fans, in this case yellow gorgogian, can also be filmed without the use of artificial lighting. The closer we get to the red horny coral, the easier it is to perceive its intrinsic beauty. Not only is color lost at greater depths, but also over greater distances. We notice the contours of some small fish. In view of their shape, we assume that they are marine goldfish. As we draw closer, their coloring returns and they become more distinctly outlined. You have all seen a scorpionfish at some point. It is a hunter that lies in ambush. Perhaps you find it quizzical that a fish so red can hide itself. This is what it looks like without our reflectors. A diver with artificial lighting really needs to have a good eye and experience to see it. Without additional lighting, it would also be difficult to see this moray hiding in the darkness of this multicolored crevice full of life. When there is no artificial lighting, even this John Dory, an inherently slow hunter, is perfectly camouflaged thanks to its stripes. This unusual, almost transparent organism is a Cestus veneris comb jellyfish. No matter whether it is flooded by reflectors or not, it remains like liquid glass, and only its contours are visible. The deeper we go, the stranger things seem. We see dark shadows that are reminiscent of monsters. More often than not, they are only meadows of large algae at the sandy bottom. In the depths, the contours of creatures and objects become blurred. Even the crags and schools of fish are difficult to discern. Only when you come in closer is it possible to recognize particular objects or species of fish. Visibility is better in the shallows, which makes it easier to discern who or what is approaching. Out of the blue, from almost all sides, comes a school of Atlantic bonito. This little swimmer of the open sea is a sea squirt. And this is quite an unusual worm. Suddenly, we are in the midst of a school of fish again. Little tunnies. They are relatives of the tuna, hunters of the open sea, and are in search of schools of anchovy. As we rise to the surface, we notice that the sun's rays are getting stronger. We leave this unique place on the Adriatic, an undersea world that has won us over with its translucently blue depths. Brusnik, black, solid granite consisting of an igneous volcanic diabase, and accessible only to capers, seagulls, and the endemic black lizard. Even the beaches are made of the same matter. But the eternal lapping of the waves has transformed the sharp edges of this stone into a soft, undulating surface. Down through the ages, this stone has been used as a whetstone. The alliance between sea and stone now also includes fishermen, who noted how the sea penetrated into this gorge in the center of the island during high tide. They used this phenomenon to their advantage and built walls around these saltwater lakes so they might serve for keeping lobster. During the fishing season, when the days grew warmer, they would even take down the sails on their traditional sailing boats, falkushe, to provide shady shelter for their catch. These walls of stone are all that remains of the fishing settlement from the days when the Falkushe sailed the seas. The season for picking capers begins mid-spring and lasts until the beginning of the heat waves in the summer. Today, the best capers in the world are picked by the Zanki family. Their buds are permeated by all the etherealness of this climate that is both bitter and pleasurable. This black lizard seeks out the morning's dew on the caper's leaves and flowers and makes a feast of it. On an island uninhabited by people, this lizard forgets its timidity. We return to Sveti Andrija with Jakov and Ezia, who will reveal to us the secret of how capers are preserved. The buds are placed in a glass jar and homemade vinegar is poured over them. The capers here are larger and firmer and are therefore juicier once they have been preserved. We dive into the waters at Brusnik and descend 50 meters into the blue depths aided by a rope. As we move towards an enormous stone shape that rises towards us, we quite literally push our way through the immeasurable schools of damselfish. This is an ideal habitat for them. It is easy for them to find hiding places among the igneous black rocks. The male cucurras loves to strut his imperial colors. The competition in the beauty contest in this undersea world is very strong. This yellow sea fan sports a designer outfit consisting of dogfish egg pods. The ravishing red horny coral accentuates its beauty with the help of a pearl oyster shellfish. This is one of the largest Retapora bianiana that we have come across so far. The seabed with its gentle white sand is a radical contrast to the black crags. We encounter yet another exclusive creature, the endemic Mediterranean Unicella soft coral. However, these igneous rocks can also be deceptive. They look like the walls of Atlantis. The shallows also have entrance in the undersea contest, green beauties, algae, and they come in all shapes and forms. And then there is this translucent, gentle cucurras out searching for her colorful male companion. Open sea and sun. When you seek to catch a view of the mythical and somewhat spectral island of Jabuka, your gaze is arrested by Kamik and the dark shadows of birds circling around it. These are Eleanor falcons out hunting. They are beautiful small birds of prey and migrating birds that can join the coast of Croatia with the distant shores of Madagascar. However, according to their birth certificates, they are born here. They lay their eggs and raise their young in secretive places. There are only about 40 pairs of this endangered species of bird in Croatia. Kamik's steep crags are inaccessible and look like the face of an old man gazing out to sea. We leave Kamik and sail towards Jabuka. Fishermen have never liked Jabuka. It provides no shelter from the great rolling waves. Upon our arrival, we are met by the omnipresence of loudly screeching seagulls, but we also come across the endemic black lizard. We're amazed by the number of black lizards to be found on this rocky islet that is only 700 meters of coastline thickly coated in algae. We climb to the top of the island. Here we come across a type of cornflower endemic to Jabuka. It does not grow anywhere else except on this desolate rock on the open sea. Nature shows its creative force on this small area of land. The sea around Jabuka is teeming with life. Fishermen would often come here to fish. There are over 20 toponyms on this solitary rock. We are particularly interested in the Bethlehem toponym. We approach a small, shallow cave. The almost black volcanic darkness of the depths around Jabuka is our destination. Diving along the undersea crags of Jabuka is the privilege of a lifetime. The depths around the island have fed innumerable mouths and have left their mark on the history of fishing in general. This is not genuine red coral, although it is mistaken as such by many. This is its gentler and softer relative, the Alcyonium. These algae have adapted their color in view of the light available. The Cystoceria algae extends its thin leaves to catch a ray of sunshine. In a crevice that has swallowed many a fishing net and anchor, we come across our old acquaintance, the marine goldfish, and a multitude of yellow parazoanthus sea anemones, which resemble sea flowers. Yellow, pink, and blue sponges add to the vivid colorfulness. Spiny lobsters, the masters of deeper crevices, defend themselves from hunters, but they are willing to share their crag with the timid forkbeard. Combers are well known for their hunting prowess as far as small lobsters are concerned. Hidden in their holes, these spiny lobsters wave their long antennae around. Perhaps they are waiting for the comber to leave their territory. Patiently, they lie in wait on the crags. On the shadowy crags, we come across a colony of small Coronactus or jewel anemones that have the luster of precious stones. They can be green, orange, pink, or purple. No matter what color they may be, what they all have in common are light, rounded tentacle tips. It is unusual to see a warty crab without a sponge on its back. The Prosthecarius is a small flatworm. We encounter this elegant specimen as we leave the undersea world of Jabuka and head back to the surface. The sea is and was always a source of food for the islanders, but not the only one. On an island without water, the plants and animals thirst and wait for the rain to come. The people have watched the skies longingly and hope that it will fill their cisterns. A heavy downpour is a relief to all. Every drop is vital. A good, clean area is ideal for collecting water in the cistern. There was never time for a break. Once the island produced 15 wagons of wine. The hoe was the main tool, but also served as a measuring instrument. One hoe for every 250 vines that the laborers of the hard worker could hoe in one day. The grapes were carried back from the vineyards to the cellars by the grape growers themselves and on the backs of donkeys. Once the grapes had fermented, they turned into a flowering river of golden wine. Today there are fewer hands and fewer hoes, but the quality of the wine is still excellent. While the men busied themselves tending wine, the unflagging women went about the chore of preparing bread. And Etzia is preparing bread the way it has been prepared by generations before her. While the dough rises, the fishermen go off to launch their boats. Nets and trap pots need to be checked. While they are out at sea, Aunt Ezia divides the dough and kindles the open oven. A hot stone cleaned by a brush of rosemary will help to bake an aromatic loaf of bread. And while the nets are cast at a secret fishing spot, the bread has already turned golden brown. As the sun sets, it is time for dinner and then bed. But in the sea, life is only getting started. In the dark, every attempt to shoot out after prey or attempt to escape from a hunter reveals life in this world. There are those for whom the amount of available light is of no consequence. The little sea anemone will catch whatever the sea washes in its direction. Some, on the other hand, like the antenna shrimp, only come out at the dead of night. With its long antenna, this rare species of shrimp spends the day hiding in holes but comes out to hunt at night. This shrimp is safe as there is a pack that has, quite possibly, existed for millions of years. It cleans the teeth and mouths of other hunters, like the moray or the conger. The Galathea squamifera squat lobster also feeds at night. The long-clawed squat lobster with its long, elegant pincers is also out hunting. The large sea slug, the Dendroterus, accompanied by this little fish, is also out in search of a meal. This unusual red crab is the Pisa spiny crab. Its unusual carapace looks like a colony of red algae. If it were not moving this fast, it would be difficult to spot. On the sandy bottom, we encounter a crab we have not come across before. We interrupt a Paractea monodi crab, protected and guarded by a set of pincers in its nocturnal search for food. It resembles the larger Euryphera varicosa warty crab, its closest relative. The difference is that the carapace of the Paractea is more attractive. It is a small and secretive crab. Nighttime is the ideal time for crabs. The Silurides arctis lobster is a rare and rather unusual sight. Its antennae are stunted and flattened so that they resemble fans. It may grow to the size of a spiny lobster. This beautiful specimen has a shiny, sharply granuled carapace in a variety of colors and is very eye-catching. Under the small sponges, the beady eye of the scorpionfish does not miss the sea anemone's sudden decision to close its opening. The small ilia crab is safer in the sand. When morays start coming out of their holes, hiding is the safest way to live to see another day dawning. The fishing nets have been cast. Apart from having to evade fishing nets, these small fish also have to elude nocturnal hunters. One of the fish that is better at this game, although it would be difficult to guess judging by its sluggish movements, is the John Dory. But it has a secret weapon, namely its mouth that can telescope out in a flash. As a result of which, an unsuspecting fish may end up as a tasty morsel in its stomach. The game of life and death continues. As the sun begins to rise, the fishermen haul in their nets and their catch. Perhaps they remember the old legend. If the carnation disappears from the top of the island of Jabuka, fishing will cease to exist in Komija. In the mid-19th century, the endemic carnation, Dianthus, disappeared. At a time when oars and brawny mussels were the only reliable means of propulsion, these islands seemed distant and terrifying. Even today, the islands of Sveti Andrija, Jabuka, Brusnik and Kamik awaken within us a feeling of respect and wonder, but also an awareness of the responsibility we need to shoulder in view of these jewels scattered in the Adriatic Sea off the coast of Croatia. The island Pag brings two things to mind: lacework and cheese. The northern area of this northern Adriatic island resembles a huge, barren, rock-scarred wasteland. Once a part of the mainland and nestled beneath the slopes of Velebit, today it has been stripped bare by strong northeasterly winds and salt. To the traveler, this 60-kilometer-long island resembles a stone quarry pockmarked by razor-sharp stones. The peak of St. Vitus and the remains of a church by the same name is the island's highest point. Beneath it, a pool. Vegetation is found to the southwest around the towns of Novalja, Šimun, and Tovarnela. There, you will find numerous coves, sandy beaches, and a seabed of sand and rock reaching to a depth of 67 meters. In the winter months, the island of Pag stands solitary, lashed by northeasterly and southerly winds. Only the seagulls and the rocks stand adamant. The sheep seek shelter behind the dry stone walls. The sea is a grayish blue and desolate. The depths surrounding the island are a clashing contradiction. Azure abysses covered in various organisms. This is also the case on Maun, an island just west of Pag. The most striking is this colony of red horny coral, which create beautiful sea fans. Their colors vary from yellow to purple. On Veli Brusnjak near Maun, an emerald hue prevails. The tones of green are the result of invisible algae that covers the sandy shallows like silk. Here and there it conceals the remains of ancient artifacts. In the sparse fields of algae, one encounters the odd sea anemone and an empty sea urchin shell. It is now home to a blenny and its fish louse. In this underwater world, we witness a different relationship between man and fish. A morsel offered to a conger eel as our token of friendship is reciprocated with compliance. No doubt the eel's curiosity also contributed to the bonding. Unaccustomed to humans, it offers us a unique experience. It's so docile that it will come to you even if you come without a fish. However, fashion accessories disturb it. It doesn't like our gloves. This is pure man-to-fish interaction. Touching a live conger eel, which is rarely trusting of humans, is a reward unto itself. The Bora has washed a jellyfish onto the shores of the Tsaska beach. The ancient town of Kisa once stood here. It sunk into the sea during an earthquake in the 4th century BC, and its remains are still to be found in the waters of the Tsaska Cove. A relic of the island's more recent past, this tower stands in memory of the times when the tuna frequented Pag's coves and bays. This unique construction served as a lookout. Nearby, the port of Novalis, today's Novalja, developed. From ancient times to the early Middle Ages, it was the most important town on Pag. St. Catherine's Church guards sacral treasures. In the local archaeological museum, one can find the remains of Roman sarcophagi and fragments of the early Croatian three-strand pattern. Beneath the glass-covered floor of St. Mary's Basilica, a preserved early Christian mosaic. In the courtyards of the houses, we see unusual vertical openings. 8 of them lead to the Roman aqueduct, known today as the Italian's Hole. Cut into pure stone face, it extends 1,042 meters. Traces of the aqueduct are visible near numerous dry stone walls. In Roman times, Novalja was an important port. The most significant underwater sight, and a find that they say was a mere coincidence. However, loving perseverance was needed to locate it. Amphorae, intact and some dating back 2,000 years, were found in the Vlaška Mala Bay, which faces the Velebit Range on the mainland. We can only speculate as to what calamity this vessel encountered before it sank. In the Velebit Channel, the most obvious culprit is the Bura, relentless northeasterly winds that lash the shoreline. Today, this pristine and protected site is covered in various organisms. The intricate design of this sea moss reminds us of the island's unique adornment, Pag lacework. Today, the amphorae are alive. They are home to the conger eel. The scorpion fish, the octopus, and to sponges, which have adorned their homes with a colorful camouflage. Here we also find a lead anchor and an original amphora cap. The island of Pag has a diverse landscape. Plants growing out of rock have to be resilient to the harsh winds from the north. One such plant life is sage, which the islanders call slavolia, also rosemary and other aromatic herbs. Fig trees are protected by dry stone walls. Olive trees have survived here since ancient times. For ages, the islanders have known which olive trees belong to whom. Even fresh grafts on the same olive had their owner. The dry stone walls on the island have crowns, an ingenious defense against sheep. Along the roadside leading from Loon, we see numerous ancient settlements and dwellings. At the Dab settlement, it seems as if time has stopped. To either side of the road, Spanish broom. And thick oak forests surround the houses. And cherry trees in the sheltered valleys. Pag has 3 freshwater lakes. This one is by the Vidas settlement. Reed and a frog, an unusual sight on this rock-covered island. The largest and most significant lake, Velo Blato, is a protected waterfowl sanctuary. Due to freshwater fish found in its waters, the lake has been an age-old fish farm attracting the countless resident seagulls. On the northernmost point of the island, the Fortica, a vantage point and Venetian fortification dating from the 17th century. To the north, the deep-rooted olive groves around Loon and the oak trees of Bošana and Dubrava. Beneath St. Vitus, the sandy beaches of Slana, Barbat, and Sveti Duh. Here, you can also experience the healing properties of peloid mud. A storm is brewing above Škojić. It's best if we seek shelter in the depths. Surrounded by tranquility, amid a school of damselfish, we dive down, forgetting the icy Pag Bora and its raging force. The crags of Škojić are fascinating. We notice that there are less anemones and gorgonia, but more sponges of all shapes and colors. Of all the corals abounding these waters, we encounter the most beautiful one belonging to the Alcyonium species, locally known as Our Lady's Hand. It's a soft sponge. Although they may not seem it, the most advanced organisms on this crab are the transparent velvety Clavellina sea squirts. Their internal organs are visible, although in vertebrates, they also have vertebrae features. We dive down towards the remains of the ancient vessel Ruja. Less and less remains of her structure, only the metal segments defy decay. She lies dressed in fluffy attire, which conceals new life. The town of Pag is situated in the central region of the island. It arose above the Saltern, white gold. Although a part of times long past, the town's history is to be found on the facing shore. In 1393, the old town of Pag was devastated. The only memory of those days is a church adorned with the image of the Virgin. The architect of modern-day Pag was Juraj Matejev Dalmatinac, whose statue stands by the shore. The most well-known citizen of Pag is Bartol Kasic, the first Croatian grammarian. His statue on the main square is surrounded by Pag's history. The Ducal Palace. The big church, Vela Crkva, whose rosetta resembles Pag lace. And there is the book that the father of Croatia's first grammar holds in his hand as a pledge. Preserved within the walls, a solitary tower remains of the originally 9, and out of which the largest monastery in Pag arose, the Benedictine Monastery of St. Margaret and the Church of Mary's Annunciation. The Benedictine community has existed on the island for more than 700 years. They're the guardians of valuable collections central to the island's cultural life. They founded the lace-making craft, schools, and brought faith and hope to many islanders. Many artifacts are to be found in their sacral museum. They are also renowned for their bashkotini. Using an age-old recipe unchanged through the centuries, they make them with the help of modern technology. Once food for fish, today they are the provisions of modern-day seafarers. For centuries, daily life in and on Pag has been connected to the Salterns. Their presence is one of magnificence and colorful geometrical beauty. From here, the white gold was transported in smaller cargo vessels, penice, and in later years, open wagons. Once again, we return to the shallow Pag Bay. We enter a world filled with plankton and a variety of eggs. Some of them won't be that lucky. They will be sucked into the canals of a sponge or stung by an anemone. Plankton is the most important link in the food chain. They're the food for shrimpfish, which will later be food for anemones. A strange-looking pipefish leaves the shelter of the Poseidonia field. It's strange to see it among the Cysticeria algae. With a bulging belly, this male pipefish swims on, to the peaceful shallows. He struggles, every movement an effort. On the seabed, something fantastic is happening. Live pipefish struggle to come out of the embryonic pouch. Like the seahorse, pipefish females leave their fertilized ova in the male's embryonic pouch located on his stomach. Barely visible, pipefish young swim out into the murky, shallow waters. Although there is no protection from the Poseidonia, the male pipefish has found a spot where the current will not carry the young away. It even seems as if he's watching over them. The young, perfect replicas of adult pipefish join the world of plankton. And it's an inhospitable environment. These minute creatures are food for brown tube anemone, sole, and others. A little luck is needed in order to survive. The sole has adapted perfectly to life on the sandy bottom. Both of its eyes are on the right side of its head, and the small tube beneath its eyes serves for breathing. This shrimp easily falls prey to the sole. This is the smallest octopus we've seen so far. It has to flee, even from this shrimp. However, in a month's time, the shrimp will be a mere morsel for the octopus. Pug lacework is a protected Croatian product and brand. It's made by needles starting with the reticella, a square, open grid-like pattern. And for centuries it has been produced by the industrious hands of patient and imaginative women of Pag. Thousands of pieces of lace were made by these women, who called it bashkiteg. There is a permanent display of this unique lacework at the gallery in Pag. The lacework is a part of the local folk dress, which is crowned by a pokrivac, a head covering made of fabric and lace. It's worn only on church holidays and on the days of the carnival. Another authentic Croatian product is Pag cheese. Unique pastureland, milk, a microclimate, and human diligence have made this cheese a delicacy worldwide. During the maturation process, the cheese requires constant attention. The cheese factory is a blessing for the islanders. There are 40,000 sheep on the island. Their milk is used to make ricotta cheese. Then there is wool and the famous Pag lamb. It all begins at dusk, as the sheep return from pasture. Amid the dry stone walls and shelters, industrious hands shear and milk them. Tomorrow, they will be off to the pastures again, amid the protective labyrinth of rocks. The underwater crags are never bare. Life abounds at every step, and new life is born. This unusual cluster is snail eggs, and it is to the snail that we dedicate this story. The most well-known gastropods are whelks. Here we see the snails in an amorous embrace during mating. They lay their eggs in the field of Posidonia. Their larvae are left to the sea. Whelks are hunters and scavengers. They also clean the seabed. Here we see one attacking squid eggs. They're predators, but also prey to others. However, their sturdy shells are ideal protection. The Natica millipunctata hunts shellfish and other snails, which it kills by drilling a hole into their shells. From a long siphon-like canal, a proboscis emerges. The Buccinulum corneum is in search of its prey. Gastropods have poor eyesight, so these radars armed with small eyes are primarily used for scavenging the seabed rather than for hunting. This shell has significantly more whorls. It can measure up to 14 centimeters in length and belongs to a gastropod subclass that numbers among the largest in the Adriatic. It too is a predator, with a developed siphon-like canal which serves for probing the environment. Gastropods do not have proper teeth, but radulas. Radulas are crucial to all gastropods. It is a system of sharp plates or denticles used for scraping and injecting their prey. They are often armed with toxic glands. Others, like the giant tune, excrete sulfuric acid from salivary glands to dissolve the shells of their prey. One of the most attractive and protected snails is the Venus shell. Its shell is egg-shaped, shiny, and smooth. The vermitid is an unusual worm snail. It feeds by filtering its food, and its home is firmly fixed to one spot. By developing new defense mechanisms, the heavy shells of these snails became insignificant. The ear shell is in a transitional phase of discarding its shell. A large foot and colorful shell are clearly visible. The perforations on the shell are an opening for its proboscis and filter oxygen from the water. This herbivore is one of the fastest marine snails. New defense mechanisms included poisonous glands and an indigestible body, so that shells soon became obsolete. The Diodora has a shell which is hard to conceal. It resembles a limpet, but is somewhat different in shape. The anal cavity is situated centrally and serves for discharging undigested food and waste. The home of this rare and unusual Umbraculum mediterraneum is even smaller. Its shell is more like a hat with a serrata. Its shell is purely ornamental. Measuring about 15 centimeters, the Umbraculum is a large snail. It can be different colors. The most colorful examples of snails are sea slugs. The colors and patterns are truly striking. At first glance, it seems that nature has made a mistake by making these slow and soft creatures so conspicuous. However, this is not the case. It's a defense mechanism. The bright coloring and striking patterns of their bodies warn possible predators of the poison contained within. This allows them to move around in search of food or mates. Sea slugs are also called nudibranchs. Some of the unusual cluster-like outgrowths at the rear and end of their bodies are gills. Sometimes they resemble floral bouquets. The Dendrodoras grandiflora is one of the largest sea slugs. It feeds on sponges. It has large gills which, when in danger or under attack from sea worms, it can quickly withdraw. There are many enigmas in the world of the sea slug. The most interesting sea slugs are covered in beautiful and colorful serrata. The serrata of the Flabellina affinis is a shade of pink and purple. And this is its cousin, the Cratena peregrina, a stunning slug with multicolored serrata. The Aplysia fasciata, sea hare, is the largest sea slug in the Adriatic. Touching its body is like touching soft velvet. As it spreads its mantle and heads for the depths, we bid farewell to the island of Pag, the tranquil rocky giant of the Adriatic Sea. The island of Loshin floats on the sea like a large open leaf among the Kvarner island group in the North Adriatic. In ancient records, these islands are quoted as having been called Apsitires Nesois, which comes from the name Osor or Apsoro. This is why they are called the Tres Loshin island group. The group also encompasses smaller islands, including a series of uninhabited rocky crags, as well as Unije, Susak, Vele, and Manesrakane. Ilovik is the southernmost of these islands. It is separated from Loshin by the islet of St. Peter, on which there has been a Benedictine monastery since the 11th century. Ilovik is rightfully called the Island of Flowers. Ships sailing in from the west would first catch sight of the island of Susak. There is ample evidence of ships having sailed by this island for centuries in its undersea world. On the south side of the island of Susak, by one of the undersea crags at the Margarita headland, there is evidence of ancient sea vessels and their structures. We follow a school of Saup over to some marble columns. They were supposed to embellish Roman villas. Instead, they lie on the bottom enriched by undersea life. The sea here is unusually clean and crystal clear. Large colonies of sulfur sponges add additional color alongside the various shades of blue. This Discodorius sea slug looks as if it has fallen asleep on the bottom. This one-armed crayfish is dragging a sea cucumber along, although we do not know what it plans to do with it. These beautiful calyxes belong to a Parazoanthus sea anemone, and they adorn an orange Exonella sponge. As a rule, they are only found on these sponges. And yet another unique sight is the Alcyonium palmatum sea anemone, locally called Our Lady's Fingers. Its true beauty is only visible during a dive at night. A little farther on, we come across a large quantity of Roman tiles. A Roman vessel carrying cargo of building material was probably shipwrecked on the sharp rocks around the Margarita headland. We leave the green undersea kingdom behind us as we rise through the deep blue and return to the surface in the sunshine in a cloud of bubbles. Maybe these marble blocks of the deep were supposed to end up in Osor. Osor was the only larger settlement on the island during Roman times. At Lisk, time seems to have erased all traces of the ancient past. Most of the Roman remains can be found at Sveti Yakov. In this quiet bay, we come across what is left of the walls of a Roman villa rustique. town itself is on top of a hill, and the Church of St. Jacob there is a relatively young building that was constructed on top of an earlier Romanesque church. If you decide to take a stroll around in the island, you will not encounter any poisonous snakes. There is a legend attached, and to discover the reason for this we need to go to Telavrin, to the top of this hill which is 588 meters above sea level. Just below the hilltop there is a cave in which once lived an abbot, Gaudenice, a Benedictine, and a great opponent of sinful living. Exiled to Telavrin, he led the life of a recluse, cursing all the poisonous snakes on the island. Fragrant vegetation covers almost the entire island: myrtle, holm oak trees, laurel, pine trees. The island's climate is temperate and mild and has curative properties for those suffering from pulmonary illnesses. Unie is the largest island in the Loshin archipelago. The 80 inhabitants of the island have preserved the traditional way of life. In the small museum on the island, we come across traces of the past, like this old olive press. If you're lucky, while sailing in the Loshin archipelago, you may see a porpoise, a dolphin jumping over the waves as it happily chases after fish. It is said that there are about 150 of them here. We dive down towards a sunken cargo steamboat, the Tihany, used by the Austro-Hungarian Navy during the war as a naval war vessel. The ship barely managed to give 10 years of service. Built in Trieste in 1908, it was a typical cargo steamboat of its time. It was 45 meters long and 6 meters wide, and was a cargo transporter that plied the eastern shore of the Adriatic Sea. Its last cargo, which it took down to the bottom when it sank, included 129 tons of coal and a wagon of oil. It sank one night in 1917, when it ran aground on the island of Školjić, which lies in front of the town of Unie. Today, the Tihany lies on the sandy bottom at a depth of around 30 meters. The wooden sections have rotted. All that remains are the steel hull panels and the ribbed skeleton, and they are thriving with life. For this Sabella worm, the steamboat is a good hiding place. This denizen of the deep has chosen a strange place to live. All that is left in the hold of the steamboat is the reserve propeller. Lower down, below the stern of the Tihany, we discover a wary inhabitant on the sandy seabed. We do not disturb its peace. Instead, we make our way back to the bare deck. As we head back to the surface, we are accompanied by a school of damselfish, a lonely sheep's head bream, and a school of saup. There is a theory that 12 Croatian families moved to the island from the mainland during the Mongol invasion in the 12th century. Some of them settled in the eastern part of the Sveti Martin Bay. They built their houses within an area which is today known as Gravot. In time, the inhabitants gradually settled further down towards the shore and became fishermen and seafarers. Mali Lošinj lies in the Augusti Bay and is today the largest island city on the Adriatic. In Mali Lošinj there is a stone statue on the wall of the cemetery next to the church of Sveti Martin, dating back to the 15th century. This statue once stood on the altar, the Holy Virgin and the saints. It is charming in the rustic manner in which it was fashioned. With the advent of seafaring as an occupation, many locals became captains and sailors. They all pledged their faith to the Holy Virgin and to Saint Nicholas, as well as other saints. At the Church of the Annunciation on Chicat, their votive offerings stand as proof of their faith. Modern-day Mali Lošinj looks like a town from a fairy tale, even though its golden age, a period that ended in the 19th century, is long past. Its intrinsic beauty lies not only in the quaint coves that surrounded it, but also in the highly sophisticated architecture of the houses, villas from bygone times that were once inhabited by famous seafarers. They bear witness to the sophisticated cultural and social life encapsulated among the lush vegetation of this town. The Undersea world also has a cathedral. It lies in the depths off the small island of Premuda. We enter through one of its many openings. Katedrala, cathedral, is one of Croatia's most beautiful undersea caves. At the bottom, we are greeted by white sand. Shafts of sunshine penetrate the sea's depths and illuminate the walls of the cave, which are full of life. Spiny lobsters hide out in the holes among the yellow Leptosami sea anemones. A black sea bream leads us through the other chambers and towards the main entrance, which is at a depth of 30 meters. The currents are good, and there is an ample supply of food for both the brown tube anemone and the rare leopard goby. We pass beneath the cave's vaulted ceiling covered in yellow leptopsamia as we make our way to the main chamber, enraptured by the collage of life on display. The numerous openings, or the cathedral's so-called windows, provide plenty of light in the cave, making it even more uncommonly beautiful. It is impossible to visit all the chambers and pass through all the halls during one dive. We gaze in wonder at the translucent blue of the sea. The sun shines down through the openings, and the strange funnel through which we are about to surface, surrounded by glittering air bubbles. Katedrala Cave really is a thing of beauty that you only get to see once in a lifetime. Veli Lošin lies at the foot of the hill of Sveti Ivan in a narrow bay on the southeast side of the island. At the top of the hill is the Church of St. John, a place of pilgrimage for the people of Lošin. Veli Lošin is surrounded by woods and parkland. Tall, elegant, luxurious villas built and owned by captains tower above the Church of St. Anthony and the harbor, just like in Mali Lošin. The local captains brought works of art from closed Venetian churches that were sold off at auctions. This is how the Church of St. Anthony came to house one of the finest and largest collections of art in the Kvarner Islands. All this opulent decor and grace is juxtaposed with the rustic atmosphere of the fishing villa and harbor of Rovenska. Small, picturesque, cheerful houses lie scattered around the rounded shores of the bay in which white fishing boats are moored. The large breakwater was built during Francis Joseph's time, commissioned by the Archduke Maximilian of Habsburg, who loved the Croatian coast, especially Lošin, only to meet an unfortunate death in distant Mexico. When searching for wonders in the undersea world, one has to wait for the right moment. We enter a cave on Malastrakane exactly at noon. This is the time when the interior of the cave is best illuminated by sunlight. This cave was once part of the mainland. Today, it is only grey stone but inhabited by new settlers. We head out of the cave in search of an unusual animal species. For some species, this field of Poseidonia may seem like a jungle. We're not the only ones out in search of the unusual. This unusual creature is a sea mouse. Covered in sand, it is well camouflaged and well protected. Small, firm, sharp bristles. These are the basic characteristics of a species named after them, the segmented bristleworm. When in danger, this worm may even roll up and bristle like a hedgehog. Its closest relative lives on the rocky bottom, the Hermaticae carunculata, or bearded fireworm. You might even curse it if you hazard to touch it. Its bristles are like glass, and the experience may be very painful, as they cause skin irritation and sometimes even paralysis to parts of the body. This is why it needs no camouflage. Moreover, this scavenger advertises its venom through its bright coloring and the deep red colored gills along its body. In order to find the largest among the segmented worms, we have used a dead sea urchin and crab as bait. This is the Eunice Aphroditis segmented worm, a favorite among fishermen. It is probably the fastest worm in its class as far as grabbing food and hiding is concerned. It has powerful jaws with 2 sharp hooks for hooking onto its prey. The Eunice Aphroditis segmented worm can only be lured out by the smell of a putrefying morsel, because its soft body makes a very juicy meal for many fish. And this is one of the most beautiful worms, Philodotse pareti, or the paddle worm. It is covered in greenish pairs of parapodia that protect its soft body. It usually lives on a sandy, silty bottom, and is easy to find if you overturn rocks, which is where it likes to hide. At first glance, this worm could be mistaken for a sea anemone. It hides out in little houses made of rocks and shells attached to its body. In fact, the Polypterus seems to be a cross between a mobile hunter, scavenger, and something that does not even look like an animal, let alone a segmented worm. A crown, swaying like the fronds of a delicate palm tree. However, these crowns are in fact a cluster of gills, and its delicate body is a house that conceals perhaps the most beautiful forms of marine life of all. These worms can be found on all types of seabed, from sandy bottoms where the dark Mixicola is frequently to be found, to rocky undersea crags. They all have one thing in common though. They are permanently attached to the bottom, and live off the detritus that is brought to them by the sea. They use their spectacularly beautiful gills to filter the seawater. These gills are very delicate and sensitive, which is why they are quick to retract them before slowly opening up again. These tube worms are also sometimes called fan worms because of the shape of their gills. Some, like the Serpula, have an attractive top that they use to close the entrance to their home. Tube worms are mostly loners. However, in places where there are good currents and rich detritus, you may come across a number of them living together. The largest communities are made up of the smallest, the delicate filograna build colonies. As these colonies of small worms are completely white, covered in sea anemones, and live on rocky crags, it is quite possible to mistake them for Gorgonian. Serpula like rocky caves in shady regions. The largest and perhaps most beautiful among these worms is the Sabella. Those in the shadows have multicolored gills, whereas those living in greater depths tend to have gills that are almost white in color. Just like an undersea sun, with thousands of rays. Susak is a unique and unusual island on the Adriatic. It is completely covered in sand, although it is situated in the midst of a number of rocky islands. Gornje Selo with the Church of St. Nicholas and Donje Selo with its landing jetty are the only two places on the island. Gornje Selo originally grew around the Benedictine monastery of St. Nicholas in the 11th century. There is a legend attached. It is the legend of the great god, or in the language of the people of Susak, Veliki Bog. According to legend, the sea washed ashore a great crucifix that the Benedictines took into the church, and which may no longer leave the church. Although Susak is a sandy island, bamboo grows here and is used instead of wood. Susak is also famous for its wines and tended vineyards. You can visit them by taking one of many sandy and shady green paths, like this one. The water in the roots of ferns and blackberry bushes protects the sandy paths and the entire island. The people of Susak were always oriented towards the sea and the gifts they received from the sea. Fish, octopus, and sponges. The tradition of diving for sponges is kept alive by the divers on Krapan. Strolling around this sandbank of an island is like walking over dunes. The black searing eye of a dentex. The squinting eye of a cunning cuttlefish. The inquisitive eye of a sheepshead bream. These are the eyes of night hunters and the lords of the night. They would gladly eat each other, but they all prefer crabs and lobsters. Eyes are something also of importance for this warty crab. It needs them to anticipate an attack and evade it. This small sepiola poses no threat to the warty crab, as it prefers plankton-sized crabs or small fish. The smooth Venus shellfish and dogcockle would prefer the same. Sea anemones also feed on plankton. The night has also lured polyps of the Alcyonium palmatum sea anemone out to eat. Its branches resemble red coral but are more fragile and finger-like. They reach up to catch plankton from the sandy bottom. The Alcyonium palmatum sea anemone, known locally as Our Lady's Fingers, is endemic to the Mediterranean. And as we leave the island of Loshin, we catch the outspread hand of Our Lady's Fingers. The Alcyonium palmatum sea anemone bid us farewell in parting.